Hello and welcome to Independent Podcast Service. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we are discussing the episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker, the Spanish Moss Murders. This episode originally aired December 6th, 1974. Dave, do you have any idea what the number one movie in America is? Because we haven't tried to record this 3 times and the internet did not keep shitting on us.
Still as it stands, no. You figured it would be a decent time to cheat and double check on Google.
Oh, so you didn't hear when I told you the first time. Oh, perfect. Okay, so you thought because it was December that it might be a Christmas movie, but I am here to tell you that it is in fact Death Wish.
You know, nice time at the end of the year. Go in with a supposed horror film, supposedly, from the
No,
title.
Death Wish is not a horror film. It's like a vigilante action kind of movie.
Again, also understandable, but also a case of I have no idea what that is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's there was a couple of them. I think they made like 3 or 4 of them. Um, oh, they made more than I thought. I did not know that there were 6 of them, including the remake. Okay, but yeah, basically it's about this guy played by Charles Bronson, who's an architect, and his wife and daughter are assaulted or killed or something, and then he like finds the people who did it and shoots them in the head. Basically, it's one of those movies, like one of those revenge movies.
Yeah, pretty much sounds like it. The typical movie of our time that everyone usually memes about is running through my head with the phone call scene. I will find you, and I will kill you.
Oh, Taken.
Yes.
Alrighty, so now for the number one song in America, Dave. Any idea what it could be?
Time. Oh, the 70s. Mm, Another one of those annoying cases of I've most likely heard the song, but I can't put a
You've
finger on it.
definitely heard this song, Dave. Definitely. But I will say it is not what I would consider a Christmas song.
It's only the safest bet when it's around December. Can it really
No,
be
no,
argued?
that's a totally reasonable assumption, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it is not a Christmas song.
Duly noted.
Any idea what it could be?
No, I've got nothing.
Oh, Dave. I don't know if this will make you happy or very, very mad, but what if I were to tell you that everybody was kung fu fighting, those cats were fast as lightning?
Honestly, not too surprised. Questioning whether or not it would be a case of it would either just be a case of they had that in the back pocket and wanted to perform it at some other point, but they could only manage at the start of December.
Um,
Again, with particular songs in the 70s. It might have just been a thing of it popped up and I was like, oh my gosh, this song slaps.
I don't know, but I found that very funny that kung fu fighting was the number one song this week. Made me very happy. Anyway,
Well, it's also tremendously understandable.
let us move on to the what happened in this episode. So there is a pair of seemingly unrelated deaths. They are in fact connected, as each victim had a small amount of Spanish moss on their body. When more murders occur, Kolchak is able to determine that each victim is indeed connected to a comatose Cajun man who is part of a sleep experiment where he is denied the ability to dream. The man's subconscious is able to physically manifest as a vengeful monstrosity, the Père Malfait, a legendary Cajun boogeyman who dispatches anybody who has wronged the sleeping man. Kolchak's intention to stop the Père Malfait marks him for death, unless he can stop the creature before it kills him. Dun dun dun. So, what do we think of this episode, Dave?
Whole It's definitely interesting with the subject matter they've been touching on over the last couple episodes, going into more interesting styles of crazy boogeyman uh, style monsters. Though this episode kind of left two tastes in my mouth. On the one side, it was interesting diving the little bit that they touched on within the science, how the monster supposedly worked, and exploring from that. But I couldn't help that near the end of it, it was kind of like, oh my god, there's a monster around here. We need to have the strange encounter and whatnot. That they were either rushing or trying to remember, oh my gosh, this episode needs to end. We forgot about it.
Okay, okay. So I agree. I love that we're getting like different like types of monsters. Like it's not all the very classic like Eastern European like vampires and or Western European like werewolves, vampires, those kinds of things. We're getting stuff from other cultures. Like last week we had the Native American monster. This week we're getting a Cajun one. I love that because I love learning about these new monsters. I
Mm.
have two problems with this though. One, the monster costume is terrible.
Eh, again, with the setting and the styling, they could hide it a little bit with the lighting and the setup with that. But also, yeah, I think there's only so much that you can kind of do with that kind of monster. With just, it's a swamp monster, stick the moss on it and you're good.
I mean, they just took Richard Keel and just chucked some moss on him and like go. Like, oh, it's great. The only problem I have is that the swamp monster in Chikara was more believable, but that's a discussion for another day.
Duly noted.
Oh yeah, you've never seen that. Anyway, my other problem is how he kills the thing. Cause
Yeah,
like,
understandable. With those particular legends, they have to go in that there is a supposed defense aside from just don't get near the bloody thing
I
or
I've
cause fire.
I have no problem of there being a way to like kill the monster, but he kills it by poking it with a stick. I know
Yeah.
I know it's meant to be like you're staking it, but the way that it's shot and the way that like Darren McGavin does it, he looks like he's just kind of poking at him. Like you remember like when you had staking scenes in like Buffy, like they would like full on bring their arm back and like slam it down into the man. It looked believable. This he's just kind of like He's like poking a dead body with a stick.
The one hand just sort of remembering the scene though, it gave me a little chuckle. It's like, trying to fight the particular guy off. I can definitely agree with you on that with that one there. Eh, again, only so much that they could supposedly do, I'm sure. And I'm sure the last thing anybody needs is a lawsuit for somebody getting injured on set in that sort of case. Again, it is a stick, but n- any sort of damage or whatnot, who knows how bad it could supposedly be if you're not careful.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, there even in the '70s, there were ways to do that better and still do it safely, right? Like, this is more an
That's true.
issue of like, I'm sure it was a matter of like, oh shit, we only have 5 days to shoot this episode, and we have to put something together so that we can like air it. Like, I'm sure it's something like that, but it looks funny.
Mm.
Yeah, I enjoyed this episode again because we're getting a different type of monster. We're getting something a little different. But yeah, I mean, this was fun. I like we get some good Carl like monologuing and stuff, which is always fun.
And true. I think one other particular thing you reminded me of that I was enjoying the music that was also featured within this story, since a couple of the suspects and victims within this case were street performers. So you hear a
Yes.
couple uh, performances, a little bit of musical work and whatnot, and name escapes me, but there's one particular guy on the street. He stops and gives $10, and it's like, "Hey, could you by chance tell me some information about this?" It's like, "Sweet, I got enough to actually record in a studio. I'm out of here." It just ditched. And it's like, ha ha ha, you pretty much walked into that, huh, Carl?
Yeah, and this guy thinks he's going to record a number one hit of him playing like was he playing like a fiddle or something? I'm like,
Yeah, on the fiddle.
I feel like in 1974 you're not going to get a number one hit with that, but okay.
With a particular crowd, but depending on how big that crowd actually is, yeah, that's understandable. And whether or not that would actually hit number one, also kind of up in the stars.
Yeah, I feel like that's not very likely, but whatever. Like, I tend to agree. Like, I do like seeing like the street performers and stuff like that. I'm like, that's fun. I like stuff like that because it kind of it gives a feel to like what the city's like and that kind of thing. And I think that's really cool. So, did you have anything else about this episode, Mr. David?
No, like the one other particular thing was Vincenzo supposedly had a big speech that turned out well within this episode, but kind of like Kolchak, it was kind of dash into his office, get his things, and it's like, okay, go ahead with your speech, sneak out the side door.
Yes. Yeah, Vincenzo has some address to like the Chicago like newspaper folks or something. He's some kind of like publishing meeting or something. And he has this speech that he's talking about how they don't need yellow journalism and all this while he's staring directly at Kolchak.
You know, the poster child of doing any of those kinds of stories.
Oh, of course. It's great. So, if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we will be diving into the Energy Eater. So, good news. There's a new hospital in Chicago. Bad news. There's a restless spirit that's killing the patients.
Ew. Poor luck.
Yes, it's a Native American spirit kind of deal. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I will butcher it, but I remember this episode being pretty fun.
Interesting.
So yeah, it'll be I think it'll be a good time, Dave. I think it'll be a good time.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes. So until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.